You're lying in bed, phone in hand, watching someone else build the life you've been mentally rehearsing for 2 years. Not with envy exactly, with something quieter, something that just sits there. People tell you that you have so much potential, and you smile. But that word has started to feel like a soft accusation. Like potential is a promise you keep failing to keep, not to the world, but to yourself. And in the quietest part of you, you wonder, what if the dream isn't the problem? What if I am? What if the vision is clear, but I'm just not the person who can actually do it? Here's what no one tells you. Paralysis is not the absence of desire. It's often its most intense expression. What you're about to understand isn't a pep talk. It's the actual mechanism behind why the people who want the most are often the ones who struggle hardest to start. Psychologists have studied this, and once you see it, your relationship with your own ambition will never look the same. You know your dream in real detail, maybe too much detail. You've thought about it so many times that the future version of you already feels familiar. The work, the life, what it would finally feel like to be there. The clarity isn't the problem. The assumption most people carry is that motivation is a function of desire. More wanting equals more action. So if you're not moving, you must not want enough. It must be a discipline problem, a focus problem, a character flaw. Everyone has a theory. None of them account for the fact that you want this more than almost anything. Here's what's actually happening. The brain's motivational system runs on reward prediction, the anticipated pleasure of an outcome. But when the gap between where you are and where you want to be is very large, a second system activates alongside it, threat detection. The dream doesn't just register as a reward. It registers as evidence of inadequacy. Every time you think about it, your brain is simultaneously calculating the distance between who you are now and who you need to be. And when that distance feels insurmountable, the nervous system doesn't treat the dream as a goal to pursue. It treats it as a threat to your sense of self. So the brain does what it always does with threats. It suppresses approach and produces avoidance. You experience this as procrastination, as numbness, as the bizarre, maddening phenomenon of caring deeply about something while doing absolutely nothing about it. Your paralysis isn't evidence that you don't want this. It might be the clearest evidence of how much you do. But here's where it gets complicated. You probably tried to start multiple times. You felt the readiness, made the plans, experienced that genuine belief that this time would be different. And then the morning it was supposed to begin, something quietly evaporated. All fog, not resistance, just nothing. And you told yourself you'd start tomorrow. The conventional reading is motivational failure. What it actually is an identity problem. Because for people who have held a dream for a long time, the dream isn't just a goal. It becomes part of how you see yourself. You are someone who will do this one day. And that version of you, unrealized but intact, is something the brain actively protects. Starting means risking it. If you try and fall short, the story breaks. So not starting becomes its own strange form of self-preservation. Psychologists call this self-handicapping, the unconscious tendency to avoid putting your real ability on trial, because failure would cost more than inaction. This isn't weakness. It's a protection strategy. The problem is that it works so efficiently in the short term that you never actually find out whether you could have done it. You're not protecting the dream. You're protecting the version of yourself who still might. Sit with that. Now, is this just a flattering excuse? If the dream genuinely stopped meaning anything to you years ago, then maybe, but you're still here, which means you already know the answer. There's one more layer, and this one is the most practical. You can picture the destination in vivid detail. But when you try to think about what to do today, this week, the vision blurs. Not because you don't know what's needed, but because the scale is disorienting. The brain struggles to assign real motivational weight to distant outcomes. Neuroscience calls this temporal discounting. The further away a reward is, the less neurologically real it feels, which means less dopamine, which means less pull toward action. The dream is vivid to your imagination, but faint to your reward system. Meanwhile, the discomfort of starting something uncertain is immediate and concrete. The brain's math always comes out the same. The cost is now. The benefit is abstract. Inaction wins by default every time. What actually moves people isn't the vision. It's the very next physical action, made specific enough that the brain has something real to respond to. You don't need more vision. You might need less. Not the dream itself, but the distance you let yourself look ahead before you take a step. And this is the thing no one actually says out loud. You've been waiting to feel ready, waiting for the motivation to arrive first. So the starting feels natural rather than forced. But research in behavioral activation, a framework rooted in cognitive behavioral psychology, shows consistently that action precedes motivational states, not the other way around. You don't unlock the feeling and then move. You move and the feeling unlocks. A small, concrete action towards something you genuinely care about produces the neurochemical response that then fuels more action. The brain needs evidence, not plans. Plans don't move the system. Doing does. Motivation isn't a prerequisite. It's a byproduct. You've been waiting for something that only starts after you stop waiting. I'm not going to pretend this is easy to sit with. The gap between a vivid dream and a still life is one of the loneliest feelings there is. You've probably watched people who wanted less than you do build more than you have. That sits in a specific part of the chest that doesn't dissolve just because you understand the mechanism. But the mechanism tells us something important. You were never broken. You were running a system that was working exactly as designed, protecting something it thought was too important to risk. The paralysis wasn't apathy. It was your nervous system treating your dream the way it treats everything it cares about, by trying, in its own clumsy way, to keep it safe. The dream was never the problem. The distance you try to cross in a single step was. There's a companion to this coming up, about why the most self-aware people often struggle most to change, even when they understand exactly what's happening to them. It goes a level deeper than this one. Follow so you don't miss it. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to step small enough to be honest.